What's going on, everyone? Nick or Catalyst here. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. And today we have another installment in the hashtag Review My Gameplay series, which, if you didn't already know, is a series where I take audience-submitted gameplay, either from my subscribers or somebody that's just passing through, and give them personalized feedback on how they can improve at Battlefield 5, as well as hopefully answer other questions that you all might have along the way. And today we have an awesome submission from Spike, who's been a subscriber of mine for a really long time. I'm really sad that I don't get to do these more often, but we do have a really nice episode that I think is really going to help a lot of you today. So without further ado, let's just get straight into the gameplay. So just looking at the gameplay for the first time here in the opening seconds, it appears to be a team deathmatch game on Devastation, and I'm sure a lot more of you are probably getting more familiar with team deathmatch since Frontlines and Domination were removed from the game, which is pretty natural. Team deathmatch is one of the remaining small game modes. That's a nice kill there. Not sure how we didn't hear you, but anyway, so I'm sure a lot of you are going to be playing a lot more Team Deathmatch, so this is actually going to be a really nice opportunity to point out some things, not only about the game mode, but your gameplay in general here, Spike. And that first death, obviously, is not your fault. That's Battlefield 5 visibility at its finest. It's somebody camping there with, I don't know, we're not quite sure what he killed you with, but you really are not going to survive too many of those situations. Unfortunately, you couldn't get revived there, and we spawned right back up on the top of Devastation. So I do not know too much about Team Deathmatch, except from what I've started playing in the past couple of weeks. One thing that I think that you can improve on already is anticipation and understanding where people might be coming from. You stood out in the open for a long while there, and you actually just did something that's a really good point to put down on, and that is understanding flanks and lanes and how to hold them and why you should hold them and what weapon you're using. Now, what you did is obviously you have probably one of the highest rate of fire submachine guns in the entire game, and you just stuck out in the open. And as you did again, you probably should have died there. If that was a better player, you would have been dead. You stood out in the open of the doorway when you would have been best to peek the corner and then run and make your way cover to cover. But as I was saying beforehand, when you came up through that upper story section of Devastation that you're just passing by to your left right now in the gameplay, you decided to look down that lane with a submachine gun. Now, say that there's an MMG or there's something like an STG with a 3x scope down that hallway, you're not going to be able to win that gunfight, really in most cases anyway, depending on what weapon you use. But the fact that you're trying to look at that with a SOMI, with a red dot sight, at a weapon that's probably not going to win a gunfight at that range, it really doesn't behoove you to waste the time to look down that hallway, when you should probably either go up and around, or you should just assume that nobody's going to be there. Maybe use a smoke grenade if you have it. Now, also, we just saw you take a death. Oh, no, you just got revived. That was just a little bit of an error in pushing when you shouldn't have, and you kind of made the same mistake just then. You should have probably waited to let that person go up the stairs before shooting at them. Of course, shooting at them and they're taking damage alerted them to your presence, and they were able to just wait for you there, and you probably should have just kept things as they were, maybe waited for him to come back down. Definitely shouldn't have shot first, but I know this is kind of like a hectic start. I haven't really stopped talking since the beginning of the gameplay, so I hope that this is all making sense to you. Now, it is kind of important to understand that Team Deathmatch is one of the most random and unpredictable game modes in the entire game. And in the few weeks that I've really been playing Team Deathmatch, because unfortunately Team Deathmatch is now my warm-up game mode since they took out Domination, Team Deathmatch is really bad for spawns, lane prediction, and map knowledge. You're going to often find a whole clump of enemies running together at one time, and it's going to be really hard to predict where people are coming from, because people often will spawn on top of you and everybody just kind of runs around the map looking for each other. So on that note, Team Deathmatch really isn't a good game mode for understanding kind of the finer elements of Battlefield, but on the other hand, it's really good for, I guess, practicing gun skill when you get into situations where you're massively outnumbered. So there are some pros and cons when it comes to that, but as you can see, again, you're kind of holding that long lane with a fast rate of fire submachine gun. So even if you do try to challenge somebody from there, you're probably going to lose that gun battle because A, of your recoil, it's going to be a little bit higher than whatever weapon that person may be using, and you're also a little bit out of range even though you picked up the kill right there. I will say that so far you've done a pretty good job of staying within your ranges, even though a lot of the action has been inside the church. So that angle that you were just holding just now was actually a really nice angle to hold with the Somi or any close range, close quarter combat weapon in comparison to some of the angles and lanes that you were holding earlier. So I hope that gives you a good dynamic on what angles you should be peeking and when and why you should be holding that angle, especially with the type of gun that you're using. Now, you did get caught out in the open there. So I'm assuming that even though you have a whole team of medics close by, that you're probably not going to be revived here. That would be an absolute tragedy. Oh God, that's really unfortunate. We're actually going to fast forward a little bit in the gameplay here, and right here is going to be a really nice example of when to hip fire and when to aim down your sight. You seem to have a really good knowledge about doing this, trust me. I've seen people just try and straight hip fire it, spray and pray, so to speak, but you seem to have a really nice knowledge on when to do which, and you end up getting a nice couple of kills. One thing that I do suggest is that you turn your kill feed on in the top right corner. It's going to give you a better idea of how your team is doing and when you maybe should pull back or push for effect. Now, something that you do really, really nice here, and then something that you don't do so well, and it's going to end up getting you killed there. When you go out to the middle of the street, anyways, you tend to take a path that goes to the left, and that was really good because you have a submachine gun, and the people that you might encounter coming that way, you're probably going to win that gunfight because the Somi is probably one of the strongest weapons in the game, and you also have the range advantage. But why you got killed there is because you left that kind of close quarter range area, and then you just ran out in the middle of the street, and that's why you got killed. So I hope that kind of comparison helps you understand why that death happened, but also why you were doing something that was actually really, really good. Now, something that you're kind of doing here that you did earlier in the video is that you kind of have the tendency to stand in open doorways and open windows and everything, and that's fine if you're peeking it and you're pretty and you're just, scouting and making sure, and, you check that long corridor again. It's okay when you're, just generally going to give it a quick peek, but when you're standing in an open doorway, it really gives the enemy a fair enough chance to shoot you. Snipers are going to pick you apart. Mounted machine guns are going to pick you apart. You should really try to avoid standing out in the open. And, I think it's a tendency with the visibility in Battlefield 5. You're literally just squinting at your TV screen to try and find somebody. It's a habit that everybody really has, but it's a habit that everybody, I think, really needs to eliminate in order to get better at the game. Because standing out in the open is going to get you killed 9 times out of 10. You got really lucky that nobody was coming that way at that time. And, of course, a smoke screen is going to handle a whole lot of that as you spontaneously combust like the Human Torch there. But I hope you understand what I'm saying in this example. Again, jumping just a little bit ahead in the gameplay, because a lot of the mistakes that you make across the entire gameplay are something that I've already talked about. Yeah, it was a great kill on a low health enemy. Now, something that you could definitely keep in mind here is that enemies have ears. Unless they have like a really bad headset. So when you open fire, you're obviously going to attract attention. So when you first open up shots on somebody, it's really good to keep moving and not standing on one place and kind of just waiting for them to peek you like you did in the open there. It worked out okay, and what you did really well is, well, I mean, you ran into a bad situation there, but prior to that is you were able to go in and close out the kill, and you did that very well, and you were able to really benefit your team in that manner. The death, that's kind of just one of those things that happens. Sometimes you're going to go for a res and it's going to not appear as clear as it seems, but again, those things happen. I would really focus in this last clip is just focusing on making sure that you don't stand, again, out in the open too long, especially when you fire, because you're going to attract attention, and the enemies do have ears. At least the smart enemies have ears. They're going to locate you and try and snuff you out. Now, up in the apartment building here again, you got a nice 2-piece there, 3-piece. Enemies not really paying attention to you. Kind of interesting to see what you do here. Oh, you kind of re-peeked that. I mean, I think one thing that you could have done better there is you could have used some of your other senses other than your eyes, to kind of discern where that person was. Granted, it does look like your brightness is kind of low. Maybe, again, that's just a lighting engine. If your brightness isn't 100%, I would bring it up to 100% because you might have been able to see somebody in that corner if your brightness was all the way up. But I think in that situation, you knew that somebody was over there. You might have been better to not peek that angle again. But You do get a nice three-piece right there. You hold that angle, or you held that angle rather. Very nice, and he does get a teabag for camping in the corner. That was really nicely well done. And that should be the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. I went through the entire rest of the gameplay, and I didn't really find anything else that I could talk about that I haven't already talked about already in this gameplay. So, thank you so much for Spike for not only being a dedicated subscriber to the channel, but for submitting this gameplay and allowing me to use it. I hope that my tips were able to help you, and any questions that you might have had. And, of course, if any of the rest of you watching this video found something useful, that's awesome as well. That's the point of these videos, is to point out some things that you could be doing better, or some things that you're already doing really well already. So if you want to be on a future episode of the hashtag Review My Gameplay series, all you have to do is upload a video to YouTube, make it unlisted, send me a link in a comment on any Catalyst HD video, and the hashtag Review My Gameplay, and I'll take a look at it, see what I can find, maybe some tips and tricks in your gameplay as well. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure you drop a like on it. If you're new here, subscribe for some Battlefield 5 content, and if you're already here, please turn on post notifications. That would help me out immensely. Once again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Nick or Catalyst, and I will see you all another time.